Welcome to Beyond the Competition, the SAE University Programs Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Empowering Women in Mobility panel. I'm lucky to be here with 5 wonderful women to talk to you all today about being a woman in the mobility industry. So, first, before we get into the deep and difficult questions, we're going to have all of us introduce yourselves. So we're going to go all the standard name, job title, company, that good stuff, a little bit about what you do in your job. I will go first. My name is Jessica Swan. I work at General Motors as the SAE Relationship Manager, and I am here today promoting a new SAE collegiate competition. So stop by the GM booth to learn more about that. I'll pass it on to Jackie.
Thanks, Jessica. I'm Jackie Zimney. I've been at GM for about 10 years now. This year is the anniversary of the time that I stood across the recruiting table from a GM recruiter at Formula SAE Michigan and got my job. I'm currently the system owner for hybrid engine start-stop in our global systems engineering and system safety department.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zuzana, and I am a senior technical recruiter at the PACCAR Technical Center. Just a little background, PACCAR, we own Kenworth, Peterbilt, and DAF trucks. You may have seen our trucks on the road. They're kind of everywhere. So what I do at the Tech Center, we are a kind of R&D and testing facility, so I support in the hiring of the engineers at that facility.
Hi, my name's Tasha Krug. I didn't do Formula SAE in school. Instead, I did a different thing called Chump Car, which is totally different. But I work at Kenworth, one of the PACCAR divisions. I'm a senior vehicle controls engineer, so doing vehicle function definition that then feeds into what customers actually get on the truck. So happy to be here.
Apparently, I already have one. Hi, I'm Emily Wilson. I work at Rivian Volkswagen Technologies and previously Rivian for 5.5 years. I am a staff software systems engineer, which is a mouthful of made-up words. That means that I make sure all of the systems in the car are going to work together. And before that, I did body controls, so writing code for everything on the car that makes it work for the user but not move, like headlights, steering wheel controls, seats, everything like that.
Hi, I'm Gayathri Gatla. I'm a senior staff software engineer at Rivian Volkswagen Technologies, and I'm in the connectivity software group. And what I do is figure out how to get all the data from the vehicle for all the wonderful engineers who can do their magic and do their things. And then I also am responsible for defining or designing our 5G and our Wi-Fi radios and all the other cool things.
So all of you all in the audience, start thinking of questions because I'm going to ask a few and then we're going to turn it over to you. So now's a good time to start brainstorming. First question I have for you all is, what led you to choose a degree in a STEM-related field and then a career in the mobility industry?
So, I was always interested in math and physics, and I don't think I ever thought of a field other than STEM. And sorry about it. So I didn't think of any field other than STEM for as long as I remember. What I'll say though is I never thought I'll be in mobility industry. I always thought of computer science, software development and things like that. And what I really cared about though was sustainable energy and a drive towards electrification. And that's how I got introduced to Rivian about 6.5 years back. And I was totally sold on their mission, their design and how they want to engage with the customers. And here I am 6.5 years later, still having the most fun. And I don't think I'll work in any industry other than mobility until I retire. Cool. Thanks.
Mine's kind of funny. My biological dad worked in oil and gas, and I just really wanted to undo all of the impact that he had on the world. So the only way that I could think to do that was to be an engineer, because that had a plausible impact that I could make. And then electric vehicles was how I wanted to do that. So I did an internship at Tesla, and that led to Rivian. So
So I've been working on cars since I was really little. I used to restore old muscle cars. Muscle cars are very different than cars today that have like 50 different ECMs in them. The world has changed a lot, going from ICE to electrical, fuel cell, hydrogen, and a lot of different technologies. But I've been working on cars since I was very, very little. So probably at about the age of 10, I knew I wanted to be in automotive. I initially wanted to design cars, and then my father told me that CAD is the latest and greatest thing. So everything's on a computer now, and you can't just sketch cars for fun and submit those drawings. So I switched more to be mechanical focused since I was a gearhead and liked to get dirty, very tomboy-esque. So mechanical engineering with an automotive focus was kind of what I chose when I turned 10 years old. So it's been a while.
So I did not study STEM. I'm a recruiter, so I did study business, though. I have a bachelor's in business administration and also a master's in business administration, but I come from a family of engineers. My dad's a software engineer. My mom was a mechanical engineer, too, and a bunch of my cousins as well. So I kind of was always immersed a little bit in this. And then when I was finishing my grad program, I got the chance to interview at PACCAR. And I remember going to the tech center for the first time and being like, wow, this is so cool. Like, I would love to work here. There was a lot of jumping up and down when I got the job. So, and I've been here, ever since. But I will say it was really scary when I first started because, I did study business and I didn't, I'm not an engineer by trade. And I was like, wow, I have to start recruiting for highly technical positions. And I was like, wow, what's a piston? Like, we need to get going here. So I remember I was like watching YouTube videos and stuff because I'm a visual learner. And so I was like, okay, we got to start learning. So I had a very steep learning curve, but I highly, highly enjoy what I do.
Thanks. And I think I'm going to try to play keep away. So let's pass it that way. So I like to say I kind of just wandered into the role that I'm in now. I liked STEM-related classes in my primary education. I didn't really know what STEM was, but math and science tended to be my favorite. An engineering degree kind of made sense there, right? Especially that way I didn't have to choose between math and science. I could do both at the same time. When I went to the University of South Florida, we had an engineering 101 class. We had to attend the general body meetings of 2 student organizations. At the time, I was a chemical engineering major. I went to the AICHE meeting, and then I've always kind of liked cars. Don't know a lot about them, but liked them. So I thought Society of Automotive Engineers would be really cool. I got hooked. I joined the team. I rose up through the ranks of just doing general fabrication. I did some PR work, even though I'm probably the worst person to do PR as a natural introvert. I became the brakes lead, finally the team president, and coming to competition here, like I mentioned, is how I got my job at GM. It was something I kind of just like working on cars a little bit, don't know everything, but I've been able to kind of find a niche where I enjoy what I'm working on. I like doing what I do in systems engineering. I got a master's degree in systems engineering. I like it so much, and it just seems like a place that's where I should be, and I've never really felt a need to leave it.
That was great. I feel like I can attest to a little bit of what everyone said. Like, I liked the mention of the dads here, driving everyone a little bit. My dad was an electrician, so it made it a little bit easier to be like, I think I'll do electrical engineering. Certainly. And then Jackie, I kind of stumbled into this as well, right? Like, how do you know what to do when you're in high school, like, for the rest of your lives? And that kind of gets to the next question I'd like to pose to all of you is, you started out going to college thinking you'd do this. How has your career changed and maybe pivoted since you started your professional career? We can start with Jackie.
I love this question because I have a great story that relates to it. Like I mentioned, I did brakes on my Formula SAE team, and I thought that's what I wanted to do forever. So I go and talk to my GM recruiter, and I tell them I'm interested in brakes, and I could do ergo and stuff like that, and I don't want to work in powertrain because I don't know anything about engines. I'm not interested in them. I've been working in powertrain for 8 years now, so it turns out you don't necessarily know if you like something until you've tried it out. So again, it's one of those things. Sometimes you just stumble into a place that really makes sense. You try a few things out. Maybe it doesn't work out. For example, I worked in calibration for 3 or 4 years.
really interesting roles. The work was interesting. Wasn't what I really liked to do, though. There was a lot of aspects of the work that I didn't love, but I wanted to try to find something where I could still interact with vehicles hands-on, where I could still get in at the ground floor, where there were opportunities to really make an impact and figure out the really tough questions. So I had all of those skill sets lined up, and that's where I found systems engineering, where we're really foundational. We work very early on in architecting systems back when we're just talking about function, right? So we don't necessarily know what vehicle our system's going to go on. We don't know what actuators are going to be there, but we know what it has to do, and we can architect a system in a way that when we do start to know some of those pieces of information, we can piece them together. But I didn't get here without trial and error. So I guess if I had any advice to take, and if I have an opportunity to give advice in this question here, if there's an opportunity that presents itself to you, there is no risk in trying it. The worst thing you'll find out is maybe you don't like it, or maybe you're not good at it. And you can use that information to find what you do like, or different kinds of roles that focus on things other than those spaces.
Well, make sure we actually answer the question here. So I am definitely still in more of the early stages of my career, but like I never thought that I was going to be a recruiter. Like I never thought that I was going to work in mobile. I never thought that I was going to be like, talking about engines with my dad. He was like, I remember I came home like maybe like 6 months after I started my job at PACCAR. And I was like, talking to him about, my new job and telling him, he was like, oh my gosh, who are you? Like, he's like, this is so exciting. So I never thought that I was going to do this. And so if I am going to, impart some wisdom, I would say just like keep your mind open. You never know where you're going to end up. You're never going to know where, what opportunities are going to pass you or, come in front of you. I think it's like the red car theory. If you're always looking for a red car, you'll spot the red car. So if you're always looking for opportunities, you will see opportunities in going places that maybe you've never thought you were going to. So that's my 2 cents.
So talking about opportunities, I take every opportunity that I've ever been given. It has led me down some very crazy roads. So I started out my career as a systems drivability engineer for the engine research department at Honda, their facility in Ohio. I worked there for about 4 years, and in, I think, the first 2 months, I met someone in my department who was the head of race teams at Honda. So associate-led race teams, you volunteer your time, you are not getting paid to work on race cars, but it's a very easy way to have a free project car. So that is the opportunity that I then took. I then furthered that opportunity by becoming one of the founding members of a race team at Honda, Rebel Rally. It is an incredible event, and it is extremely difficult. So it challenges me outside of work as well as in work. My boyfriend then decided he didn't want to do automotive anymore. He and I had met at Honda. So we moved to Washington, which is then where I started working for an EV company and then PACCAR ultimately. But the world takes you in very crazy places if you let it. So you kind of go with the flow. I still do race team events. Being an engineer and having overtime, like PTO and different like holiday times, sick time, a whole bunch of other stuff. You have to manage your time very well, but being able to still do motorsports outside of it. So doing passion things as well as working on trucks, which I never really thought that I was going to be working on semis. I was always very much like very low cars, very fast cars. But when you're talking about 800 horsepower trucks to tow 80,000 pounds, those are also very cool. So I take every opportunity as you get it, vet it as you go through it, see if you like it. If you don't, you can always pivot. People pivot 20 years into their career. I'm 8 years in. I've had 3 jobs from ICE to hybrid, fuel cell, BEV, anything and everything. I now, function definition as opposed to being hands-on software engineer, integration engineer, and validation engineer for the actual cars. So lots of different paths. You can choose to take it or not. I highly recommend you take it. You can always go back to what you were doing, especially like relationships and networking and keeping those connections. But yeah, always crazy.
My first job, okay, I have to preface this with I am Canadian, went to Canadian university, so we need 16 months of work experience before we can even get our degrees. So my first job was actually a co-op or an internship at the Canadian Coast Guard. And then I actually started my career in the marine industry, and did co-ops at Tesla and Bosch to get all of the months that I needed. But so after Tesla, unpopular opinion, it made me not want to do automotive anymore. But that was just my experience. Other people have great experiences. So then I went back to marine because I'd had a good experience there. And then at Bosch, I had a mentor who was very, very nice and picked me out of the group of interns and said, "You work really hard. I really like how much you want to learn. I'm going to mentor you on another team." So a few years after this internship and like 8 months out of school, he calls me and says, "So I know you didn't want to come back to California, but Rivian, do you want to come work on electric adventure trucks with me and a bunch of our friends from California?" All of my favorite people, and building a team. And I was like, I can't say no to that. I guess I'm going back. And that was almost 6 years ago. And it was a choice that I didn't think I wanted to make. And it ended up being probably the best choice I've ever made. Completely life-changing. I pivoted from an entirely different industry doing hardware electrical engineering. So like doing PCBs to now I do pure software work. So I guess my takeaway from all of this is really make sure that you're making good relationships and maintaining them. Take every chance, as everybody else said the exact same. Don't let a chance go by because you're not sure about it. You can always change your mind, exactly like you said. It might end up being the best thing you've ever done. Just the only thing that I regret is not taking one chance when I was at the Coast Guard to do the Arctic crossing. That's the only thing that I regret about my career. And Rivian's been the best ever since. So,
yeah, it's very exciting. So right off college, I studied wireless engineering, and then I went to Qualcomm. For all you folks here, they are the ones who make our 5G chips, our Wi-Fi chips, whatever. And I was working on really, well, for us at least, exciting things. And then a couple of years in, I was like, all of this is great, but what am I actually doing? And I wanted to actually work on consumer products where I can see real impact. And then I joined Apple. And for a couple of years, it was good. And for the third year, I was like, oh my God, another iPhone, the same feature or the same thing. I did not like it. And I was looking to see what other fields I can work on. And then I wanted to make a really intentional choice because I like what I was working on, but I just didn't like the application. And I was looking at sustainability industry, and I thought of Tesla, but I was not super excited about it. And somebody introduced me to Rivian, and to be honest, I was trying to be polite because they didn't have their cars out yet or whatever. So I went to the office, I met them, I saw the prototypes, and I was like, I'm done. I'm sold. I'll be here. And I think, everyone here said, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. And I still work on 5G radios, but I'm a little far away from wireless stack, but way more into the whole vehicle software integration. And I can clearly see the direct impact it makes to the customers and how they interface and how they experience mobility. And yeah.
Wonderful. I'm hearing a lot about opportunities, taking different directions, maybe some failures along the way, but certainly knowing that even if it's a job you don't like, you learn something. Now you know you don't like that. So every step is a step in the right direction, even if it's a path that's not straight. So certainly I think all of us up here probably run into challenges and thrive in environments that challenge us. So my next question is, surrounding the challenges that you faced in your career, and which of those was the most rewarding? When you got to the finish line, which of those was like, that was a really difficult challenge, I finished it, and that felt amazing? We'll start with that end.
I was going to think about it. Yeah, so this is a little bit fairly technical, but I'm going to say this anyways. We launched our vehicles, Rivian vehicles, in 2021, and halfway through the year, we realized that our hardware is not built for like the winter, and we need to do software upgrade. And this software upgrade is not a usual software updates. We have to do the whole system upgrade or the whole Linux upgrade, and it's pretty, like, I don't know how many of you are software engineers here, but it is sketchy and it's like hard. And if it fails, like, it's going to be our first recall, and we did not want to be the ones to be the first recall people, right? And and we have like a deadline of like winter coming. And also, if you guys don't know, Rivians are built in Normal, Illinois, so it's not known for like warm weather at all. So what we did was like built this like group of cross-functional team, and I was given the opportunity to lead and integrate the whole activity, and everyone was in it. Like, there was a group of people who are doing like just mileage accumulation. Someone was doing software upgrades. Someone was doing like the vehicle testing. Someone was doing data collections. Like, every single aspect and hardware and software component was tested. And I think it took about like 3 months. And like the first month of winter, every day we would click our dashboards to see how many failures there were. And I'm proud to say that there were like 0. So, and it was my like first challenging product where I was also asked to lead. So it's special.
That's such a good story. I have 2 actually. So I joined Rivian really early in 2019 when we didn't even have a vehicle that looked like the vehicles you see over there. It was actually just a skateboard with our motors, our battery, and the top half was an F-150. And it didn't have a whole lot of our own ECUs in it. So there was like, they were made by us, but they ran a different operating system. And we wanted to switch to SAE TOS, which is in the industry like a very, very big change. So it's basically starting from complete scratch of, you have absolutely nothing to put on this car. You're going to start with an empty microcontroller and make it move this car somehow. So I was 8 months out of school. I walked into the office and my boss handed me this body controller with nothing on it and said, "Okay, make the lights work." And I just stared at it and went, "Does it even turn on? Like, what do I do with it?" And that was in 2019. There are trucks over there that work quite perfectly now. There's one in my driveway. It's crazy. And that was, 21 we launched? Yeah. So from the end of 2019 until 2021, I just gave up my life to learn everything that I could. And Adam is my best Rivian friend sitting right there. Him and I got turned into factory manufacturing engineers at the end of 2021, and we learned everything there was about manufacturing on top of everything else, and stood at the end of the line with the very first production model. And it was literally crossing a finish line. We stepped over it as RJ drove it off the line, and that was the first Rivian. And so much of my code was on there. It was truly we made it. We did it. And then I thought that was going to be my end-all be-all career moment, and it wasn't. Last summer, there was a kind of, it was kind of competition to see which company could meet Volkswagen's requirements to make a joint venture with them, so that all of our hardware, software, electrical architecture could be work together to put in Volkswagen Group vehicles. There's a small team of about 10 of us that went, and we took a Volkswagen Group vehicle. It was an Audi. We stripped out their electrical architecture, the main ECUs, the main guts. We left all of their peripheral ECUs, and we made it run on all Rivian software and electrical, and then watched all of their VPs drive this Audi around a track just with the biggest smiles on their faces going like, how did you guys do this? Like, this might be better than our implementation. And that was what got the $5 billion joint venture deal signed. And I was standing right there, and my code was running that car. So that, yeah, two end-all be-all, like, in career moments in 6 years. It was great.
So I've had a lot more than just two main challenges in my career. One of them being starting a race team, especially for a very fiscally conservative company where you have to vet out everything that you want to do beforehand before you get executives to sign off. And being only, I was about 8 months out of school, getting this presentation together to then present to executives saying, hey, $60,000, please, like, this can feed into development. One of the biggest things that I learned when I first graduated, and it is extremely important, and I carry it with me absolutely everywhere I go, how to tell a story. So knowing your audience, knowing what questions they're going to ask. If you were here for the business presentation, a lot of the judges told you the same thing of having those backup slides. Those backup slides are extremely important. Anticipating what your audience is going to ask, what their main focuses are, either asking other employees, your coworkers about, hey, when you presented for your race team, what did so-and-so ask? What were the main focus items? A lot of the race teams had been around for at least 10 years, Pikes Peak being one of the biggest ones. So again, me having my coworker being the manager of race teams, I had a very great mentor to kind of guide us through that whole proposition. All of our proposals, we had to give a 5-year plan, all of the stuff that as a new graduate, I was not expecting to have to put together, especially having to know all of the models coming up over the next however long, and then understanding throughout the entire company how that could feed back into development. So having that ability to then go through that whole entire thing as both a founder of a race team, but then also competing and giving oh, you did the event now, what did you learn from it? What can you actually give us? Can you actually deliver what you promised when we gave you $60,000? And so going through that whole entire thing, the first year that we competed in Rebel as a Honda race team, I had a moment during Rebel Rally. So for those who don't know what it is, it's an 8-day all-women's off-road navigation competition. There's no GPSs, no phones, no internet. You don't have anything connecting you to the outside world for 8 full days. You travel 1,600 miles from the past few years. It's been Tahoe or Mammoth, California, all the way to Glamis in Imperial Sand Dunes down basically on the border of Mexico. You travel via paper map and compass. You plot coordinates every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then you go to bed at 8 p.m., and then you do it all over every day with no showers, no bathrooms. You're camping the entire time. It's a whole different ballgame. But competing for an OEM, especially as development engineers at that OEM, you have to continuously pull not just yourselves through, because it's you and your co-driver or how your navigator, depends if you swap or not, but your car has to make it to the finish line at the end of those 8 days, as well as the two of you. But hopefully all 3 of you make it. But the second to last day of competition, I was driving. If you've never driven in sand dunes before, the sun plays some tricks on your eyes, especially when it comes to shadows at noon. Pay attention to a lot of the weather that goes on when you're off-roading, just as an FYI. That what looks to be a 3-inch drop via shadow could be 4 feet. So be very careful. And when you lawn dart a car into sand, turn it off. Don't leave it running. So again, when surprise, surprise, I lawn darted a car with a media car following alongside us. So not only did I lawn dart, and my teammate and I had to jump out of the car and assess our situation. Again, we're engineers, right? We like to troubleshoot everything. Kind of have to go into troubleshooting mode. 5 people with cameras jump out of the car and start taking pictures of this nice 2019 Honda Passport lawn darted into the sand on a 4-foot drop. Yeah, so that was fun.
No pressure.
Tensions were a little high. We kind of had to take a moment and just step back. A lot of stress. You don't want to yell at media during an event. So taking a step back, realizing what the situation is. Of course, you have max tracks or like traction boards. Our rear wheels were still on the ground, as were the fronts, but the back ones weren't buried. They were still on semi-solid ground. And so my teammate and I were like, well, maybe we can just reverse out of it after we dig out the front nose. There were people driving the media who are off-road professionals when it comes to driving in sand dunes. Nicole Patel-Vaughn told us that she didn't expect us for the rest of the day. If we needed assistance, we could take a penalty towards points, which then would detract from everything else. But we could get her assistance to pull us out if we needed it. We said, no, thank you, we've got it. And 15 minutes later, we met up with her at the next checkpoint. It's all about assessing situations and taking a moment. Don't panic, don't freak out. What could have been an extremely costly mistake ended up being like not as bad as we thought, and assessing it before trying to mitigate it, then figuring out, oh, this isn't the right way to do it. We've now dug ourselves in deeper, literally in that moment. But taking the time to assess it, we ended up being Rookies of the Year as a crossover class. We podiumed in 3rd place. It was an incredible year for learning all around. But again, knowing how to tell a story and then using it as beneficial feedback in the future of, hey, our radiator supports are insanely strong, guys. Like, good job. So it fed to a lot of the development feedback that we gave. But ultimately, it's take a moment, analyze the situation, troubleshoot it however best you can, bounce ideas off of each other. Just don't be just a sounding board. Try to give feedback, ask questions. Like, even if they're your peer and they're like your senior or your executive, like, it is okay to ask questions. Always ask questions. If you don't understand the situation, if you don't understand the path forward, especially communicate. A lot of learning went into those 8 days. But yeah, I guess that's the biggest one that I can equate to that covers a lot of different learnings.
I feel like there's no way my story is going to be as cool as that. So I could not do that. So for me, as I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, is that learning technical things as a recruiter was a major, learning curve for me. Learning the pieces of what my engineers do is, I couldn't do my job without it. You have to know up to some level what your teams are doing and how they fit in with the rest of the business. One of the hardest roles that I've ever worked on, it was in my first year at PACCAR. It was one of my first assignments, actually. We do have our own engine program within PACCAR. We do have Cummins engines in our trucks, but we do also have our own engine program, and a lot of that program sits at the technical center where I work. And so I was heavily involved in recruiting for engine calibration, after treatment work, onboard diagnostics, our work in the engine test labs, things like that. And we needed to hire a new principal combustion engineer. This person would be like the technical expert, on how moving the engine program forward in terms of emissions and all the requirements that the engines need to meet for the trucks to be able to run on the road, right? It was really, really hard. I studied a lot. I spent a lot of time in people's offices and asked questions, learning what I needed to learn in order to properly find, the right person for this job. It took me about a year. I did find the right person for the job. He still works at PTC, and I see him almost every day, and I always say hi to him, and he always says hi to me back, and it's actually really great. He's absolutely brilliant. But it was really, really, really difficult. I can't tell you how many candidates we screened, and they were fantastic. They were great candidates. But the thing that was missing was we had people and experts and people, who were in engines and combustion engines for 20 plus years. But the issue that we were having is that when we were asked about okay, how does this requirement change your onboard diagnostics? We didn't get anything. And as you're developing your engines and your programs and stuff, you need to know how those changes affect the rest of your system. So I always tell engineers and people that I talk to is you need to know how these things affect the system. And that was kind of what we were looking for. And the person that we hired was really, really, really good at that. We're well, how are these emissions requirements? How is all of this stuff going to affect our onboard diagnostics, all of the pieces that are going, because we do sell engines, yes, but the engines do go in trucks, right? The whole point is that we're selling a whole truck. And we follow them through after sales up to that 1 million miles, right? So the whole system is very important. So that role was really, really challenging for me to work on. I was very proud of myself when we completed it. And it was really difficult. And then I was all right, what's next? Let's keep going, because I love to be challenged, and I am always looking for what else I can learn and what's kind of the next thing that I can really, really grow from.
Awesome. I'm also going to throw it back to relatively early in my career. At GM, when you join our product development space full-time as an entry-level engineer, you go into a 2-year-long rotational program. As soon as I graduated out of that, so still pretty fresh, been 2 years into business, and I go to my first powertrain role, which, remember, I did not want to do. But there I was. I was given a project that I inherited from someone who left the company abruptly and had been giving all green, 100%, everything's great to the status of this project. I'm onboarded to the team. I get put in the vehicle. This is the vehicle that this person has been using to design this project the whole time. And I get in and I'm am I really not cut out for this role? I can't even find the button to turn it on. Come to find out, this person was doing other things with their time at GM. And it's probably a good thing that they are no longer with the company, but they hadn't been working on that project at all for the entire year that they'd been working on it. And I had 9 months to get it production ready. And again, I'd never worked in production before, never worked in calibration before, didn't even know how to turn this feature on. I can't tell you what it is because it never actually went to production because the program got canceled, but we could use it one day. But I spent a lot of time in the vehicles, crash course in not only what this feature was supposed to do, all the other features and systems that it leveraged, like you were talking about. It's not just this feature. We were using parts of the engine. We were using parts of the infotainment. We were using supplier-sourced media that was in the car. And just not only figuring out how everything works, but how to fix and get everything up to speed to where it needed to be. The project's focus was fuel economy improvement. And in that 9 months, I went from the feature not even existing, even though it was supposed to delivering a 13% fuel economy improvement in trips that were between 60 and 160 miles long, which totally blew away the program team's expectations because once we realized the feature didn't exist, we're just all right, that's not going to work. And so it was really, really validating to be able to see that, when you set your mind to it, when you establish an action plan, and when you are able to communicate what you need to do to get your job done and people can help you out and advocate for you, that you can deliver on stuff that other people who are way more knowledgeable in the space than you are think is impossible. So that was a really empowering experience. And I reflect on that a lot when I look at problems that I think are impossible, because if I could do that, then there is something that can be done to the situation here.
You all are amazing. I think some trends I'm hearing is ambiguity. That can certainly be scary. Here's a box, make it work. Here's a car in a sand dune, get it out. Here's a vehicle you can't turn on. So I'm going to ask one more question here before I'm going to open it up to the audience. So again, here's your opportunity to start thinking about questions. I think something that some people in the audience may be wondering is, from what I've heard, it sounds like women in the auto industry and everything is great to have. I mean, you all are pretty awesome. So how do we get more women in the mobility industry space? Is it a pipeline problem? You got to start at K through 12. Is it getting more people into the space from a professional standpoint? Is it retention? I'm curious if you all have any inspiration on tidbits of knowledge on maybe how to help this effort of getting more women in the mobility industry.
Sure, I'll start over here. I think it's a little bit of everything, Jessica. I think we need to get girls and young women not just interested in STEM, because I think that the studies have shown that in the elementary school ages, the interest there is equitable between boys and girls. And it does drop off in the middle school timeframe. So I think the interest is there. There we go. The interest is there. I think we need to keep girls and young women informed about the impact that they can make, even if their interests in these STEM spaces and the parts of the mobility industry that we can impact is valid, even if it doesn't look like traditional mobility interest, right? You don't need to be a car guy to come work and have a meaningful career in the mobility space. I've never changed my own oil. I theoretically know how to do it, but never actually done it. My dad asked me to help him fix his motorcycle, and that's not my thing, right? So you don't have to look like a typical automotive engineer or think like a typical automotive engineer to be able to be impactful. And then I think that can pay dividends through the pipelining and into the industry. But I think we also need to focus on the people who are already here in the mobility industry and change attitudes that already exist and are maybe a little bit antiquated and outdated about the impact that women and girls can have in the industry. So like I said, a little bit of everything. I think at all levels, there's work that can be done to bring more women and other underrepresented communities into the industry.
Jackie, I feel like you covered so many of the things that I was going to talk about. I think that all of those, it's true. We do lose young girls in middle school. That's kind of what the research shows. And I also think, like, last year we did a similar panel, and I remember leaving the event, and I still, like, I had people coming up to me, and I almost cried because apparently what I had said was like, so, like, I know. And I was like, they were so excited. And I was like, holy crap, like I was almost crying because I was so excited about it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And then I remember a couple months later, I got an email from one of our sponsor teams, Formula SAE teams, the program manager. And she was like, Zuzana, I just want to thank you. And I was like, well, what did I do? And she was like, well, you inspired me to do this program and to help get more women into Formula SAE. So I was like, hey, and so basically I was like, why don't I connect you with the people at SAE International? To my knowledge, they are still working on this program, and I'm really excited about it. And just like hearing, like, kind of being part of, like, kind of the introduction and that kind of thing. So I think that doing things like this, you know, talking to people, changing the attitudes, I think is the biggest one for sure.
Oh, no, you're good. So they covered a lot of what a lot of companies need to start doing, especially for not just coming to these, which are fantastic, but you guys are already like college and engineering, right? Like, you got to start, yes, in middle school, elementary school. Kenworth actually participates in something called Touch a Truck. So they'll go to elementary schools in the area and have kids climb in trucks, blow the horn, you know, all the fun stuff to get you interested. In addition, whether you have kids or family members or whatever, I grew up going to dirt track racing. Growing up in Ohio, that was a plenty. And so that's what I grew up for motorsports going to. Motorsports are a very easy way for a lot of other, like, not just company organizations, but like back roots engineering, like a lot of personalities. But it's a great way to get the excitement of like seeing all this thing that, like, oh, this may not be your job, but this is your hobby. This is a thing that you can like work on. This is every kid has a billion questions when they're little, right? And it's like people love talking about their projects, love talking about their passions. And so things that are in the community, so like autocross is one of the big ones where it's like, okay, like I'll take my little kid to any event. I talk to a lot of parents. I used to be a part-time dirt fish instructor, so stage rallying, doing a bunch of the Women in Motorsports summits. There's a lot more out there today than there was when I was a kid. And then kind of fostering that environment all the way through to, oh, you want to be in STEM? It's totally possible. There are still some how do I want to phrase this? Unlike-minded people who are professors that you kind of have to get through, but stay with it, honestly. And like your friends are your support network. If you're passionate about something and your friends like are supportive, like as a friend should be, if they're not supportive, maybe you need new friends. But your friends are your support network. Stay with it. They will help you with a lot of what your passion projects are. Again, I was a very much tomboy and a gearhead. I was in a sorority. A lot of my sorority sisters talk about changing oil or changing a tire. I was the phone call in college. So it completely depends on who you surround yourself with. Get supportive people in your lives. Go to events, look up stuff, introduce your friends to stuff, whether they're like into photography or computer science or anything else. Like they were saying, like computer chips are everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. Like, oh, you want to be a software engineer? Oh, you just want to like test stuff till it breaks? Like durability, reliability, like a whole bunch of things exist that are adjacent to automotive mobility, and a whole bunch of other engineering interests. But yeah, honestly, it comes through word of mouth. Spread it. If it's your interest, if you've loved it, if you've had great experiences with it, like we have, that's the whole reason we're up here, right? But look for things in your community as well. Help promote those. Like you may know about them, other people may not. Post it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, whatever. Promote it. That's one of the biggest things. It will stop existing if you stop talking about it, right? So.
Thanks. That was really nice. So I was joking about my answer to this question, but I'm going to end up saying it anyways. The culture in automotive engineering is better than it was 5 years ago. Absolutely. There's still room for improvement. Going into engineering from first year onwards, it was blatantly obvious to me that diversity in engineering creates better products, better solutions. But getting that diversity and those people listened to is very, very difficult. And I have a lot of friends, female engineers, who are no longer engineers because of their experiences in the industry. And half my goal in my career is to change the attitudes and the culture so that that stops happening. That's why I'm up here. I just want every woman who wants to be an engineer to just be resilient and know that the people who are making you feel like that are smaller than you, and you are always smarter, bigger, stronger. Like, you deserve to be there. So yeah, my experience in the culture, I didn't work with another female engineer until I worked at Rivian. So that's 16 months of work experience during school. I only had female engineering friends at school. That was the only reason I knew anyone. 8 months before Rivian, and then I joined Rivian, and my entire team was women. But it was body controls, which is not the most respected of the controls areas. And it doesn't make sense why. It's how the car works. It's just because suspension and propulsion are the ones that everyone thinks are the coolest, and ADAS, like autonomous driving. It's so cool. I want to do that. And then like body controls, you're making something work for a human. And you want to make it work the best way that you possibly can for everyone in the world who's going to use your product, which is probably 50% women, people with children, like people using the car for what it's designed for. So having women design it inherently makes it work better. And I always said that like our team's goal was, if you don't know that we exist, we did a really good job. And people don't know we exist. So we did a really good job, and it was all women. And there's like actual changes on the Rivian that have happened because I physically sat in the car and my legs were shorter than the person they tested it on. So I went, guys, I can't, like, this doesn't work for me. Like, I'm doing something poorly because of the way this is designed, and it got changed. And that's just how diversity is going to make every product better. And in mobility, yeah. Oh, how my joke was that we need to stop being assholes to people. And that was all I was going to say. Oh, sorry.
I know this is such a tough question, and it's a hard act to follow. Like after all, whatever you said, but yeah, I do think we need to increase our pipeline. I mean, this is my first time at SAE, and like, look at all you young women, like not just the ones sitting here, the ones I met in the booth. Like, it was so heartwarming to see. I'd like to see more of this, and I think it's a matter of like even going behind before, right? Like in our high school, in our college, encourage, or like in middle schools, whatever, like encouraging girls to, like, they can do whatever they want. They can, like, if they want to be in automotive, great. If they want to do science, arts, whatever it is, like, we need to encourage them and not limit, and that increases the pipeline. And the second thing is like retention. When I started, like my experience was a little opposite to Emily. When I started as a new grad or even as a co-op, there were more. And as I'm growing up the ladder, there aren't as many people for like their personal reasons, for their like work reason, whatever it is, they stopped working or they moved out of the industry, they're doing something else. But they're like really good at what they do. And I think they also liked what they did. So I think it is our responsibility to change the culture and also support and advocate so they can continue working. And once we start seeing diversity and people of like different gender, race, contributing to the products, we are not surprised by it, and we start believing it. And I don't know if I have like a better answer to say. And if anyone says, oh, maybe this is too much for women or whatever, like ask Tasha. Like I'd like to see someone who went through a rebel rally and actually came out, and like that's so badass. So, like, you guys can do anything, and like we should just start believing in them and trusting them. So.
As we're talking through this, I had this like flashback to the past and some conversations I've had recently with some of the Formula and Baja SAE grads that have been coming up through GM, and some of the students that we've been talking to here on teams that I used to be familiar with when I was in Formula SAE. And I just wanted to point out, back when I was a student in Formula SAE, every single girl in Formula SAE in the US, we all knew each other. Like, that's how few there were. And so someone was talking, oh, did you know so-and-so for my team? And I was like, yeah, of course I did. Like, all the girls knew each other back then. And so to be here now and see, like, it is not feasible for all of the women in Formula SAE to know each other anymore because there are so many of you, it's really great to see. And I'm kind of, like, it's a little sad that you don't get to know everybody, but also really glad that it's because it's not feasible for you to know every single girl in Formula SAE anymore because there are so many of you. So very happy to come back. I know that I've been at GM for 10 years now. This is my 23rd competition that I've been a part of in some way. And to just see the number of women and women in leadership roles, in technical and administrative, has been so great to see.
It's a wonderful observation. So I'm going to see what the feedback is like with this microphone in the audience. Does anyone out there have a question?
So as a manager, what can I do to make sure I'm best supporting women in my team and others?
I think this is what I experienced. I can only talk about like my experiences here. sometimes managers, like even with good intentions, think they're being nice. They're like, oh, like it's too late, or like someone else can do it, or like, let them be. Like if they want to do, let them do it. Or you have to be away from your family. Like it's fine. Let them make that choice. So I don't know. Like that's one advice I would give all girls, because most often than not, they're not doing this consciously. It's almost always unconsciously. So.
Thanks. I think one thing that my current manager, who I absolutely love, shout out to Greg, does really well is that he doesn't assume that all of his employees experience work in the same way. So if we go into a particularly difficult meeting, that's something that's contentious, he doesn't assume that I am experiencing it the same way as some of my male coworkers did. And he'll go out of his way to ask what my opinion was, what my feeling was after that meeting, and how I think that we should proceed, instead of saying, well, I already talked to so-and-so who was in the same meeting that Jackie was, and this is what they think that we should do. And I think it benefits everybody, not just the women here, of seeing the diverse perspectives that are available, and how people interpret the feedback that they're getting. But on the perspective of women and other underrepresented groups, we experience the world differently than the prevailing majority does. So not assuming that everybody's experiencing work in the exact same way as you are or as the rest of the team is something that I think is really helpful for folks that doesn't necessarily come front of mind.
To go with that, not singling them out, especially if they are the only woman on your team. Don't be like, oh, well, as a woman, like, what do you think about it? Like, no, just don't phrase it that way. Don't single out anybody, let alone like female, but like neurodivergence is a very big thing, especially with engineers. So it's not just like race or sex or anything else, but it's also like everyone learns differently, everyone presents differently, everyone has different thoughts or different methods about going about things. So again, yeah, like you're mentioning, asking for feedback on whatever the scenario is, or wording it in a way that it's not just like solely this one person that you're talking to because they fit the one tiny little demographic, right? Yeah, yes.
So we are nearing the end of our time. Everyone in the audience, I know you have more burning questions. You know these women pretty well now, so feel free to approach them after the panel. And as we wrap up, I'd like each of you to give us one more nugget of information. If there's one piece of advice everyone should walk away with today, what is that? And I ask you keep it short, maybe 30 seconds or less. And go.
So my nugget is don't take no for an answer. Ask why. Understand why. Ask. It's basically, you can go back and present at any other time if someone has said no about your idea for anything, right? Elaborate it on more, like expand on it, understand what it is that they would like to see. Again, kind of going into that how to tell a story. No is not an answer. If you give like solid feedback as to why, like, hey, at this moment in time, we don't have the budget to do X or whatever the scenario is, like a reason going along with the word no is the bare minimum. So don't take anything less.
My advice would be don't accept anything less than you deserve, both personally and professionally. People who are not like supporting you in your life, maybe you need like a recheck on like who's, in your inner circle, because I do think that it's very true that the 5 people that you spend the most time with really, really affect your life. So, yeah, don't accept anything less than you deserve. You don't have to, respond to people's disrespect or anything like that, whether it's at work or even in a relationship or anything, right? So, don't accept anything less than you deserve.
Find advocates and be an advocate for others around you. So find those people in your life who are not only are going to help mentor you, but help raise you and lift you up when you need it and find opportunities. And be that person for somebody else or some other people in your life too.
Be confident in your skills and your abilities.
and especially everything that you learn in school and that you learn in industry, you have the same experience as everyone around you. So you probably know more than them because you've worked harder to get here already. So just be confident in that and stand up for yourself.
Oh, it's a tough act to follow.
Try new things, learn new things. If it doesn't work, you can always pivot, change. Don't be like worried about it, or like, and surround yourself with people who support you and advocate for you. Those are my two finishing thoughts, I guess.
All right, and that's a wrap. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Competition, the SAE University Programs podcast. Show notes for this episode can be found at beyondthecompetition.fireside.fm. Remember, stay tuned for updates on your competition's newsfeed or app, and follow SAE_University Programs on TikTok and Instagram. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next episode.